everybody. This is James Diboe, Discovering, dedicated to original peoples as always. And we're back again, episode 3, Australia and the Pacific Islands. We've already did Asia, we've done Africa. Next, we'll be going to the Americas. But today, we're going to deal with Australia and the Pacific Islands. So let's start with Australia now. Now, with Australia, interesting place, very tropical place, very nice place, but obviously there's a takeover of the people, as we know. So going back to the earliest times, who were the first people who got to Australia? Now, the first people were small, diminutive black peoples who you find them. It was showed in the last slideshow in Asia. Very small people who live in the rainforest and they're in different parts of Asia, like the Andaman Islands, and these to be in China, in Japan, and many other parts of Asia as well. So these were the first people. Now these were, very Africoid looking, with tight hair. Later on, the people with looser hair come in later. I'll go into that. So the small diminutive black people were sort of similar, like the pygmies, what they call the Twa in Congo, the Congo rainforest. You've also got them in like Cameroon, places like that, the Baka people, and certain other parts of Africa still have these small diminutive Africoid people. So they were there, and they were the first people, and they obviously had their own culture, their customs, and very similar to the people in certain parts of the Pacific, certain parts of Asia, Australia. Yeah, so now anyway. So this is going about 65 years ago. It could even be longer, you can't just base everything one European scientists say. So then later on, you get people, new waves coming into this area. You get people like who like going into like Papua New Guinea, places like the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, these places and that. So then you get like a wave coming later on. In the last 4,000 years, we identified that there was people who came from places like India and Sri Lanka, the Veda type people who I showed on the last slideshows in Sri Lanka and India. Now, they know this by the seen that about 4,000 years ago, that there was people from Asia, South Asia, Sri Lanka, that went into Australia and mixed with the original population. Now, at the same time, there was yet trade going on with these different peoples and that, but at the same time, some people get confused when they see a lot of Aborigines with loose hair, but this is down to the people like the Dravidian type that came in from Asia, India. Now, when we say coming from India and Sri Lanka, people might look at the modern Indian, and they weren't that type because this is like 4,000 years ago. So this is people who, yes, they were in contact with trade, but at the same time, some of them might have been fleeing the Aryan invasion, which was happening in India, and then some of them were just leaving because they have got a common culture and similarities and trade. So they come into Australia a lot later. Now, they would have brought in what they know. There's similar customs like the Veda people I went to visit in Sri Lanka, and they have their very, very similar cultures, because a lot of the times going back around 4,000 years ago, a lot of places were quite similar as far as cultures before the modern day religions really took off. Now, in Australia, I found these people very spiritual people next to the Africans. And there's many different tribes of Australia. This is a continent that's being placed into a country. So people in Australia would always like go back and forth to places like Papua New Guinea. They had a connection with people in the Pacific. They had connections with people in India. They had connections with people in Asia. They would all seafarers just like the people in the Pacific Islands and people in Papua, Solomon Islands, a lot of them. Now, you have people like obviously inland, they might have not had much contact with the seas and things like that. But the people who lived on the coast were definitely known to be seafarers. Now, one time, there was a land bridge that went from Papua New Guinea to Australia. Now, that land bridge is not there no longer. So people have to figure out how to sail by boat So basically, anyway, I had a good experience in Australia, like meeting Aboriginal peoples. Weren't too happy with the European takeover of it, of course, most definitely not. But the Aboriginal Australia, when I first met them, it was like, I mean, because you go back to when you're younger, I had globes, maps, and I used to wonder, like, spin the globe, what's this Australia like, to look on these history channels. And, well, years ago when we were young, we had like one, two, three, four channels. But there used to be little channels that, well, sometimes used to show you about people in Australia or the Native Americans or different people like that. So I was quite fascinated with the Australians, and I never ever wondered if I'd ever get to meet these people. And when I got to meet them, it's just like, I felt fulfilled every time I meet these different types of peoples who, especially who have gone on the verge of almost extinction from the Europeans. So now, if you look at the Europeans coming in now, they obviously basically tried to exterminate these peoples through many ways, diseases, killing them. They used to try to also used to take a lot of the females to breeding camps and try and get them lighter and lighter and lighter. So that way, they end up going away from the culture, and then they put the Christianity on them, and they were trying to change their whole spirituality. And nowadays, seeing the Aboriginal Australians is really sad when I see a lot of them on the streets, places like that. And, a lot of them might be on drugs, alcoholics, sniffing glue, and homeless. There's plenty of homeless beggars. And I did actually speak to a good few when I was there. And I really felt for these people. And I was having a good discussion with some of them, even whether they were homeless, whether they were just alcoholics, it didn't matter to me, because these are the original peoples. No matter if the Europeans put them in these positions, got them on some drugs, just took total advantage of these peoples, these original peoples. So I had like little conversations with them. And I was like, wondering what am I going to get out of them? So, the questions I asked them, like I asked most people, are you where you come from, Africa? So I asked so many different Aborigines just to see what I'm going to get. Now, different things came up. Some said, yes, we know we come from Africa. Some said that they came from India. Now, this is something, when he says India, that makes me think of what I was speaking about before, about the migration from India 4,000 years ago and going back and forth. And number three, another thing they said is they've been here forever. So they've both been in Australia. Now, I don't try to challenge these peoples when I'm there, like, well, no, he's all just come from Africa and that's it. I mean, leave them to have their views on, like, their connection to their land, So at the end of the day, anthropologists, when they've gone into different places and they've said, oh, you're from here, you're from there. Now, I believe, obviously, we all come from Africa in the beginning. That's partly my views as well. I've got my reasons for that. Now, some of the ones did actually agree, yeah, you know what, we did come from Africa, but we came from somewhere else first. So now people like Australian Aborigines and Melanesians, these types, these are known to go into America. The Americas many, many years ago, you see like Lucy, who was in Brazil, they had their DNA. So these people have really moved about. This is why we've got to like start studying indigenous peoples properly, not just looking at what the Europeans say, because we might study all this genealogy and anthropology and all these different things and that, but European is one of the last races to appear on this planet. So his mind is very young compared to the ancient peoples. So I just loved having these discussions with them and just, feeling for these peoples. And like, they did tell me a lot of terrible, like traumatizing stories, what's happened to their grandparents, what's happened to their parents, and so on and so on. And some of them have forgot their heritage. But then there's people there in Australia who still preserve the culture very strongly and are very proud. The more north you go, the more you're going to find a stronger culture. I was in Sydney. Now, Sydney was a bit different, yet there's Aboriginal people there now. So I went to an Aboriginal show because I wanted to see their history properly. rather than just only speak to people on the streets. So I goes and takes this trip now, and it's like a Aboriginal, not theatre, like kind of a show. So now I'm sitting there now, waiting for him to come out. I'm all excited, happy. Okay. Now I look on this, I look on there's this like side door there, yeah. And I'm looking now, and what I see is people about to come out and perform on the stage. So I'm looking now. I can see one brother, yeah. And then I see two other guys. Now, these two other guys look like white men. So I'm the type of person, me, like, because I'm really passionate about what I do and what I say, and I couldn't, I was too impatient to sit down and wait for them to come out. So I had to stand up and go towards that door where they're about to come out, the rehearsing or whatever they're doing, I don't know. So I went straight to the door and I said, "Excuse me, are you going to be performing on the stage now?" And they went, "Yeah." So obviously, get the heads up to the brother, guys, another brother, Aborigine. So I said, "Well, you two, you don't look like you're Aborigines." And then I made the joke saying, "I probably look more Aborigine than you, man." You know what I'm saying? So I paid money to come here. And I'm like, don't, what's all this joking about? So now he says, "Well, we are Aborigines. We just have very little blood in us and, just look like Europeans to me." So now I'm a bit wound up now. So now they come on stage and, they're shown when they used to hunt, like, them spears that they throw, that kill the wildlife, and the boomerangs, what they had in there. They got like a boomerang out there. And just showing you like different things within their culture, speaking about their connection to the land, very spiritual people. So so now I'm observing these two European looking guys, and I'm like, I'm just getting wound up. So one of them must have really felt what I said to him, one of the European looking ones. Now, don't get me wrong, he could be an Aborigine, but really, like, I mean, maybe his great granddad was, or something like that. And he'd been bred out, just like I said before. So he says on stage, and I know it's direct at me, he said that he gets this problem all the time with people not accepting him as an Aborigine because he's so light. And there's a lot of people who don't believe he's Aborigine, but he said, "I have Aborigine roots from my great grandparents," or something like that. So I was, well, oh, fair enough. But I know he was addressing something because of what I mentioned and that. So I spoke to the brother afterwards outside. I said, "Yeah, he is Aborigine, but he's just, he's hardly got any of them, but he's trying to preserve his culture, But I was happy when they said that, don't get me wrong, because at the end of the day, I also thought that what they were trying to do is Europeans taking the beat, you know what I'm saying? Because I've seen this in different places where they just want the lighter people to, perform and show these different things. So, I meet one of the brothers afterwards, I'm a good little chat with him and that. And I was speaking about, like I said, where you're from, your history come from Africa. And obviously, we got into the topic also about South America, about their connection to there. And he was a very clued up man, very clued up. So we went to go and visit the Blue Mountains after that. That was a spectacular view, the Blue Mountains, very amazing and that. Also got to see like some wildlife out there, kangaroos, um, koala bears. Now, when we say kangaroos, they're called something else. The ones I seen, they're not actually kangaroos. There's something similar. I've got the name, what they are anyway. But these are like things that I'm really happy to see. Meeting like having certain wildlife, meeting up with Aborigines, and good weather as well. Seeing the Blue Mountains, which is a spectacular view. So Australia was a very interesting place, and I really feel for these indigenous peoples, and hopefully one day they get their land back, which I hope, just like all original people should get their land back. But life is timing, and this is also what he said to me as well about time, the concept of time. It's not like this clock what will wait on. Time in cycles. The time will come for the oppressor to end, and you don't put a time on it, you'll feel the energy, and then that time will come. and the Europeans' reign will be over there, just like everywhere else. But that was Australia, and I had a great experience there. And I was happy to be on the continent of Australia, Australasia. You know, it was great there, and I really feel for these people. And I thought they were very, very spiritual people. I really connected to them. You know, I was happy to. I'm happy that they're still around and they're not all exterminated. And I did say to them also, you know, maybe you just need to have lots of children to keep this culture going. But at the same time, lots of children in this day and age cost lots of money, and they're very struggling to even get jobs. You know, they're looked at down the lowest of the lowest. Back in, I don't know, the 60s or something like that, you look worse than like plants and animals, and you know, so yeah, I really feel for them, and salute the Aborigines, man, and much respect. Now we're going to move into the Fiji Islands now. Melanesia, the way you've got Melanesia, meaning the Black Islands, then you also have like Polynesia, the many islands, then you also have Micronesia, the small islands. So we're going into Melanesia now, and this is Fiji. Now, Fiji, my first trip there was like 2013, and I thought it was a really great place, great people, great food, great attitudes, great spiritual people. Now, even though the Fijian people have took on Christianity from the Europeans, now basically they took it on, but at the same time they still practice their traditions. Now, this is common in many different places I've been to, where they might preserve, you know, take on religion, but still practice their spirituality, which is excellent, very good. Now, nearly enough half the population, near enough half, a little less, is from India, who were brought over indentured labours by the British and that. So now they don't really actually. You can see the differences between them both, not just by how they look, but at the same time, you can see that the indentured labour, just like in Guyana, Trinidad, and certain other places where the Indians were took, the Indians being elevated above the black people. This is all by design. They run all the markets out there. They'll have the restaurant, the majority of them. So now linking up with the indigenous Fijians. So like, you know, a good friend of mine, I keep in touch with him still, Sayatola. So I linked up with them because I've been to Fiji twice. I first went 2013 and I went 2015. So what was great is to keep the connection. I do hope to go back a third time. So the first time I went, like I said, I landed in this hotel called the First Landing Hotel. Now, the reason why it's called the First Landing, because this is the first place the indigenous Fijians landed in this area, camped in tents, and was led by the chief. Chief stepped out with his left foot. So they've done this, it's like this area of the grass, they've done it like a left foot, because that's where the chief stepped out with his left foot. Now, they have the story that they came from Africa, Lake Tanganyika, which is like around Tanzania, East Africa area, you know. So now I was very happy when I heard this. So now I was aware that they said they came from Africa because of my grandmaster teacher, Dr. Renoka Rashidi, you know, rest in peace. He was on the interview, and then you see him speaking about the Fijians. Now I was about to go to Fiji anyway, and that's how I actually came across him. And so now it's very important that like I speak to as many people as possible. Now, what I knew I have to do is as much as I used to watch Renoka Rashidi videos, and he said the Fijians came from Africa, I never actually seen any videos, any footage of Renoka Rashidi filming the Fijians saying they come from Africa. So this is something that was important for me to add on, get video footage with the Fijians saying they come from Africa, so I can come back and show people rather than just only hear from myself. So I got many people on camera saying they came from Africa, and a number of people, to be honest, the whole place said they come from Africa. All the indigenous Fijians all have the story, which was excellent. So now I go to I get to meet like a man called Kelly. They always have these English names, but at the same time, they will have their own Fijian name. But he told me his name's Kelly. older fella, probably about maybe close to 80 now, maybe retired from the hotel. So now he wants to take me to meet the chief, and this is through having deep discussions with the Fijian people, very deep discussions. I can talk the head off them, and I think what it is with them as well, they like it when you're interested in their culture. So which was great. So I was just looking at like, well, what can I do here anyway? You can take me. I didn't actually ask could I meet the chief or nothing like that. I was actually invited. So a man called Kelly said, well, you don't want to do it this tour this way, where you just go into the village. You don't even get to see the chief. You just see his house. They'll just tour you around. They'll take you into the church, which I'm not interested in because I'm not a Christian or a religious person. So now I was happy. He said, James, a couple of days later, I'm taking you to meet the chief. Now you got to be prepared when you meet the chief, he told me. So I said, all right. He said, tomorrow, meet me. We want you ready at 6 o'clock in the evening because we're going to give you the first introduction. So within that time, I had to go and buy a carver plant to present the chief. Only a couple of pounds. It's not expensive like that. It's part of the ceremony, the carver plant. I also needed to go and buy a wraparound, what they wear to traditional dressings. So this was very cheap again. It was like a couple of pounds, isn't it? It's not like an expensive place. So now it gets taken into the town by a good friend of mine, Sayatola Kama. So he goes in there now and he says, we're looking at different places. And he's saying, we need to buy a good one, a good carver. So let's look for the good carver. Don't buy like one that looks all mangled and distressed, So picks a carver, pick the wraparound, the dressing code, and then now we're heading back. Now I'm supposed to meet Kelly at exactly 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. So he's waiting in the hotel. Now he's a very strict person. When I say strict, great to get on with, but you say be there this time, you be there at that time. So now it gets back maybe about 5 to 6 or something like that. And he was like, whoa, he gave me this serious look and said, you're supposed to be ready. I told you to meet me here at 5:45. And so I had to quickly get ready. So we got a lift up there now. So I'm going to meet the chief first time now. So I remember just driving to near enough outside his house. We had to go to the spokesman's house at first. Spokesman's house is there. There's the chief's house. Now the spokesman is a very important person also. He's you can't go through, you have to go through him to see the chief. So we go to the spokesman's house. Spokesman leads us to the chief's house and take your shoes off, go inside. We had to sit down on a mat. We had to sit down on a mat and basically wait for the chief to come out. So you have to sit, sitting there with your legs crossed down, wait for him to come in. Like, wow, what's going to go on here? So now he comes in. He's also with his wife. His wife had a big afro. Yeah, chief, very old fella. So they're sitting down, blessed to meet him, introduce himself, introduce myself. But it wasn't just like I introduced myself. It was the man Kelly had to sort of, okay, you can talk now. So when the chief's giving his little discussion, first of all, it was Kelly discussing, introducing me, and he did the 3 claps. So now the chiefs, they're talking back and forth. Chief did 3 claps. So now I've got to speak now, and then I've got to do 3 claps. So the 3 is representing something. I connect with the number 3, so it goes on a deeper level anyway. So now after that, they're speaking back and forth in their language, the Fijian language. So I can't understand them, but I can't understand. But what I am understanding, I keep on hearing this word, Nigeria. So when I keep hearing that about 5 or 6 times, I knew then that he's introduced me as a Nigerian because that's how I came at the Fijians. I'll say in my, I don't say I'm an Englishman or not like that. I say me Nigerian, you know what I'm saying? So they were really happy that I came on the Nigerian culture. Now, what they know about Nigeria is it's a very spiritual place. They recognize Africa as the land of the gods, especially like Nigeria, those spiritual. It's a lot of spirituality going on there from the earliest times. Now, they give a lot of interesting stories, they said anyway. Very interesting stories. But that was just a small part of it because I've got to come back the next day to actually get the picture with the chief. So, interesting discussion, introduction. Took me back to the hotel after that. So now I've got to meet the chief 9 in the morning now to get the picture. So I just thought that, it'll be a quick picture and I didn't know what's going to go on. Takes me the next day now. Now, the man who took me there, Kelly, wasn't there the second time. So I was a little like, well, I felt like comfortable going with him, but he just said, don't worry, you've already had your introduction. So go to meet him now. Same again, spokesman. Go again, take your shoes off, sit down, three claps. Now I'm sitting in another room, not the room that I was in the day before, in the back room. Sitting in the first room now. So I'm sitting there now, and this big guy comes out. He's considered the warrior of the tribe. Now, I didn't see him there yesterday. He's sitting down, introduced himself, how are we doing? So he asked me, he basically was quizzing me, this man. So I don't know why he's digging and digging and digging deep into, he's asked me questions like about why have you come to meet the chief? Who introduced you to the chief? And what you want with the chief? Are you writing a book? So I'm just like, well, this 2013 or something like that. So I went, well, maybe I will write a book. I don't know. I didn't even know where to go along with it, or just say nothing. So he just quizzed me for about at least 45 minutes before the chief come out. Now his problem was, why wasn't he informed for me to meet the chief? Right? Now the chief comes in. He's sitting there now. So now the chief come in. How you doing? You okay? So now he's almost making the chief paranoid a bit, where he's going, who is this man, Kelly, who brought him? You're asking some questions, and it's weird that Kelly wasn't actually there. Kelly wasn't there. He was attending the funeral or something like that. So I was like, kind of like a bit stuck where I've got to hold my own here, because it all made sense afterwards, but at the time, I would like think to myself, like, well, why is he questioning me? Yesterday I was here, he wasn't here, and everything was all good. So anyway, after them is interrogation and all that. Now, we're having a deep discussion in the room. I basically passed his interrogation. Now, the reason why he was interrogating me, a number of things, which I found out later, I wasn't actually aware of at the time. I just thought the guy's being, what you call an idiot or whatever, but it went down to that. A person, when I got back to the hotel, told me that he's questioning you because you get a lot of people who try to come to the chief and the warriors for magic or some. This is what he was chatting. I'm like, what? No, I'm just coming to like connect, spiritually and connect culturally and that, an African connection. So that's when I learned afterwards. So we had great discussions about Africa anyway. Lake Tanganyika from East Africa, and it was amazing. I mean, it was like a lot of our relief after that big interrogation, and then they were speaking after that. Like it went well afterwards. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know where it all come from, but I learned that in order to meet the chief, not only do you go through the spokesman, supposedly there's a little rule, or I don't know if it's a law, where you have to meet the warrior of the tribe first. Now, I didn't have to do that for some reason. I don't know why, but basically, I bypassed them. And I believe I'm one of them deep people, but I know that for the reason I bypassed them. Where it was out of my hands with me, but at the same time, a brother took me directly to meet the chief without going through him. and I was really happy about that. So some interesting discussions about when they were in Africa, their oral history, their stories, the creation stories, and all that. So they said that they did say Lake Tanganyika, but they also said the chief, I don't know, if he married someone in Egypt, one of the queens, or a normal, I don't know how they put it, but then they set sail anyway to Africa, from Africa to Fiji. Maybe stopped off in places on the way. And so I was speaking to him about, well, it's quite a far journey from Africa to Fiji, very far journey. He said the ancient chiefs back in the day, when you were going to navigate somewhere very far, it would help if you're on there with the chief, because he gives the blessings to help you get to this destination, wherever, very safely. Now, we know that the people of the Pacific are great seamen. I mean, I've seen some of the boats out there in Fiji, just in the waters there, and I can see it ain't nothing for them to build. It doesn't matter if they dug out canoe, or they could build a big canoe with filling many people to be able to ride on it. So I thought it was interesting, Fiji, and I really felt when I got there that I was meant to be there. Even before I went to Fiji, I had the feelings that I'm going to meet someone very of importance. I couldn't like put my hand on what, but I felt like the energy must have traveled there and it manifested itself. Meeting like good peoples there, very interesting people. Although even though the women are frozen as considered beauty, going to visit the markets out there, the amazing like vegetables and the fruit out there, everything fresh. The fish was amazing. Also I got invited to a Fijian home. So a man called Joe took us there to his home. And they looked after us, gave us some big, massive buffet. And they tell you, don't leave the table until all the food is gone. It's considered as it's a bit rude to do that, if leaving food. So I just got stuck in for hours and I was bloated. And I thought it was just interesting to play Fiji. Did some fishing out there, caught some fish, went on the boats, going around the seas, and it was just absolutely amazing. And it was actually probably my favorite, most memorable place in the Pacific Islands, Fiji. And like I say, Fiji is part of Melanesia. Definitely, I will be taking a third visit there. And I met some good people out there I can still keep in touch with. Shout out to Sayatola Kama, Wise, and also Kelly. And big up the chief if he's still around. Maybe we get to meet up again sometime. But that was Fiji anyway. And I thought that was definitely an amazing place. Now we're going to move into Tonga Islands now. Tonga Islands was very interesting, and it's almost like being there. It was like it's like being in another world or another dimension or something like that. Now within Polynesia, now when we get to Tonga, even though it's only 1 hour away from Fiji, it's still classed as Polynesia. This is what the Europeans done. From New Zealand through to Tonga, through to Hawaii, it's called Polynesia. Then he considers Melanesia, from where like the Fiji is, to Papua New Guinea, and then you have the Micronesia. So anyway, Tonga, interesting, very big people, and all these people that love rugby out there. They also have a king out there. Now their king, he speaks really like clear English. I mean, like he speaks probably better English than English people, so. And just getting to see all the fruits out there as well when you're driving along. And it's very green, Tonga, very traditional. They also say, well, I'm aware that they have hard heads as well. They can if they butt you or the button trees, they just knock that down. And they're very strong people. I met a guy called Motti there. Now, Motti not long passed away. Great man. That was last year or 2 years ago. But anyway, he had a guest house. And he was in a wheelchair, unfortunately. He had an accident in the past. And he had great hospitality for us and that, really looked after us, even cooked for us there. And it was cheap accommodation, it wasn't no expensive place or nothing like that. Give us a great value for that money. And also, he made his own alcohol, which we were drinking at the time. And he also said he'll take us on excursions. He'll take us around a few different places. So he took us about and that, but he couldn't really get about. So he had to like get someone to take us about and that. So it was interesting meeting him and meeting his family, his nephew, big nephew, and a couple of the other peoples there. So we went to visit, took me to Stonehenge, the Stonehenge, and we have like a Stonehenge in the UK, as we know. Their Stonehenge is a lot better though. It looks more like a brand spanker. Henge, it looks like something just slotted in. And sometimes you look and like, wow, how they build these things and that, back in, I think it was about the 12th century AD times. Now, these are very spiritual people and they build things for spiritual purposes, first of all. I'm aware that the chiefs, the kings, they would kneel inside there because they felt it's good luck to stand in there because it can protect you from assassination attempt from the enemies, and this is part of a ritual that they do. It's not actually called Stonehenge; it's called like Maui or a similar name of that. But it's if you interpret it, they call it a Stonehenge just because of the shape it is and that. So that was great going into there, and then I'm also going to visit a pyramid, a 3-step pyramid. Yeah, the 3-step pyramid. That's what they took me to see. A burial for the royalties, and very interesting place, because when I, first researched, they got a 3-step pyramid. So some people who go and see the 3-step pyramid, they're like, well, is that all it is? They're expecting it's going to be like Egypt or something, but it wasn't about that for me. What it was about is the idea of this pyramid, which we see in not just only Egypt, Sudan. There's underwater pyramids that sunk off the coast of Japan. Say China has pyramids. There's pyramids in there was Igbo pyramids in Nigeria. There's pyramids everywhere basically, and we can talk about other planets and all that, but I'm not going to get into that. But even Antarctica, people talk about that, but leave it as that. So it was great to see all these megalithic structures, and it was great to see that he had the knowledge, they had the knowledge, the advanced knowledge to be able to do these things. One thing as well, these were seafaring peoples as well. They could build amazing boats. They're just like the Fijians, just like other people in the Pacific, and they can navigate and get into the winds. That's what he said. We get into the winds and we can sail from one part of the ocean to the other part of the ocean. Interesting. It's even like these are known to not just only because in Tonga is different. So I'll explain basically. With Melanesia, from where Papua New Guinea is and Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, people migrated there quite early. So that's an early migration in Papua New Guinea, like 45, could be 55 years ago. But the other island, like example, the Fijians say they landed there 1500 BC. The Tongans say round about just a little after that, just after the Fijians got there. So after Tongans also, do you come from Africa the way the Fijians say they come from Africa? So he says, they didn't actually say that, but what he did say is they came from Fiji. So I thought, okay. So when Fiji was colonized, then they say they come from Fiji and they went to Tonga and spread to other parts of the Pacific. I was like, okay, I get that, yeah. So they didn't actually say they came from Africa. Now, if you deal with what the scientist says anyway, the scientist will say, these people from Polynesia came from two different places or 3 different places. China, south of China, Taiwan, and also some will say Southeast Asia. Yeah. So this was an Austronesian expansion. The Austronesian people who basically left south of China or Taiwan moved into Southeast Asia. Some went toward Madagascar for the Indian Ocean, I call it the African Ocean, and some went straight into the Pacific, seafarers. So big migration. Now, what was the reason for this migration, first of all? Okay, first thing I'd say is one was trade. Another one was wars that were going on within China itself. So in a time when these Southeast Asian countries and most of China were black populations at one time, then there come a point where there's a lot of invasions, barbarian invasions, Mongols, like the Zhao dynasty, 1000 BC. Now the Polynesian type people, they left there. Some of them might even have left earlier than the 1000 BC. Some of them might have left during the Shang dynasty. Different reasons why people left as well. And they basically migrated into the Pacific. So that's where the Tongans and other Polynesians are supposedly from. The Fijians go against that. They say they come straight from Africa. And then people will say, no, you didn't. You came from the same place and that. But so, yeah, interesting place, Tonga. And going to see some of the wildlife there as well was interesting, such as we see a flying fox that like looks like a bat, like a bit like a bat, flying fox as they call them. I also seen fishing pigs. So basically the pigs that go in and fish for fish in the waters. What other wildlife I've seen? These other different little and big whales there as well. Now, one of the men told me you need to come in winter time and you can swim with the whales. I was like, no, no, thank you. I won't be swimming with no whales. No thanks. I'm not going to take the chance doing that. Plus, as well, I hate winter time. Even though winter time there is not like winter time here, of course. But yeah, and it's a shame that Motti passed away. Great man. And I kept in contact with him until he passed away. I'll give my regards to his family. Definitely looked after me there. And, probably a place maybe I would go back to, Tonga. A lot of things probably changed since I went there. It was about 2015. But then, yeah, it was definitely interesting. And, first time I figured out I ever seen these Tongan people or Fijian people when I was younger, like 9 or whatever. I used to watch the WWF to see all these big different wrestlers on it from Fiji Islands, Pacific, all different parts, Tonga. Like Fiji Island, like Jimmy Snuka, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, the Barbarian Haku was from Tonga. Then his big brother from Samoa. So yeah, it was interesting, like getting to meet these people and that. So Tonga was definitely an interesting place, and yeah, I would definitely go back to. I also did see, because you see different looks in Tonga. I got pictures of some darker skinned Tongans. That's what I was looking for. The more blacker lookings, because you will have like people who look a bit like Asian, you're looking a little bit. So they could have been like, and also don't forget you have the Japanese, the war times coming in there. A lot of Japanese males mating with the women, getting them looking like Japanese looking. Then you have later immigrants coming over from Asia, whether it was the Philippines or whether it was China, and there's a large population of these Mongols, so they basically have tried to infiltrate into the Pacific Islands. So yeah, that was Tonga. Very interesting place. Now, let's go to another place now. I'm going to move into Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands. Now, Hawaii was actually the first time I actually visited the Pacific. Hawaii is an amazing place, spectacular place. Takeover from the Americans and obviously other Europeans before that. Now, so I was really happy to visit Hawaii. I knew it was like a paradise island. What's it going to be like there? Full of palm trees, coconuts, bright blue seas, and this. Now, they built like a lot of, it's funny, like the island I was on Honolulu, because it's got several different islands. So I was on the island of Honolulu, and I was just basically trying to learn as much of the culture as possible. Now, unfortunately, they do build a lot of these like American style restaurants there, and like yeah, there's the Hawaiian culture still there, but the Americans have tried to really take over a lot of the Navy there, you know. And I was actually there July 4th, 2012, and yeah, they celebrate Independence Day, and this was a massive day, a massive, huge day, which I was very surprised. So basically, I was looking to meet up with different Hawaiian people, indigenous ones, because I've seen like a lot of Americans there, I've seen a lot of like Asians there, and I wanted to connect with the true peoples. So firstly, we did a trip to go and see the traditional peoples, the fire dancers, and they have these like festivals where every year or every couple of months or something where all different people from all different parts of the Pacific go there to perform, whether you're from any part of the Pacific. And I thought that was interesting. Some people came from Tahiti, some people came from Micronesia, people from New Guinea, all over. So this was a big event, fire dancing. Um, Excellent. It was excellent actually. It was one of the spectacular places that we went to, which was great. And yeah, so now I get to meet some indigenous Hawaiian people now. And one thing I found is like they connect spiritually like fast, very fast, because these are already spiritual people, especially when you approach them on a spiritual level rather than just approaching them on some European mentality or American mentality. So I was speaking to them about Africa, and they were very clued up. And what they said about Africa is that the land of the gods, this land of the gods, they say the land of the gods and the land of the spirits is one of them. But they kept on going on about the land of the gods and the land of the spirits. So I thought, wow, this is a deep spiritual connection that these Pacific Islanders have with Africa. I'm not just seeing it in one place, I'm seeing it in another place. The deep spiritual aspect of things, not religion, more spiritual. And I'm really happy to connect with these people and that. And we were going deep. I mean, I can go deep, and they were going super deep. And different places when I was meeting different Hawaiian people, I was happy when I connected with them. It was almost like when you meet like a Native American, like I mean, when I say a Native American, one that like is quite like isolated from other people, like not hanging around with all these other people, the common people and that. So it was like special moments when we connected and that. So that's what I was getting is they like it when you speak deep, when you appreciate their history. Now, there's a couple of things with Hawaii now. One, there's a man called Kamaman. He was, I think his name Kamaman. He's a big 7 foot Hawaiian, and he's actually one of the ones who united the Hawaiian Islands and to fight off the invaders that were coming in from the Europeans invaders. So also, you have people like everyone's there like Captain Cook going into other parts of the Pacific, and like these people. We also had the last queen of Hawaii as well was a black woman, Lydia. That was the English interpretation. So she was the last king, and you can see her depicted as a black woman. So nowadays, they try to lighten up all the peoples. They're looking for the lightest Hawaiian, the one with hardly any black blood, or she could have more of the Asian blood or European blood. That's what they try to promote. But not with me, because this is why I do. I like to go to the source of these things and that. So the Hawaiians were black peoples. All the Pacific Islands were black peoples. It was that simple. And they also have deep connections with Africa, no matter how far it is. But not only that, there's people in Asia who also have that connection, black peoples with Africa. So pretty much in the ancient world, it was like sort of like a big migration of black peoples right through Asia, right through the Pacific and Australia and these places, and even in Europe if you want to go into that. So anyway, so yeah, that was a great experience in Hawaii. And one more thing as well, what they did say, another thing before we go, they did mention about there was people there before them. Now, this interesting part, I remember even the Fijians, some of them said this to me. There were small black people there. Now, I hear these stories a lot of places about dwarfs, pygmy type blacks, all over the place. And I start putting two and two together when I start to see these small diminutive blacks, not only in Africa, in certain rainforests. They were also in South America. They were also in New Zealand, talked about them. Hawaii talked about them. Someone in Fiji mentioned about them. They're in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. They're also in what else? They were parts of India, but just like Andaman Islands there. I met them in Southeast Asia, these small black peoples. They were in ancient Japan. They were in China. Even like there's a story of the dwarfs in Europe, and I'm telling you, man, there's something I'm missing, man. But I'll save that one because I will be doing a discussion on the Twar at some point anyway. So yeah, great place. Another part of the seafaring migrations, Hawaii's. The seas are beautiful. You know, a lot of the indigenous Hawaiians were just cool, no stress. And I really feel for ones that they put into a lot of poverty, like all houses stacked together, pushed away, and looked at as like second class, third class, fourth class, whatever, you know, treating all the different people coming in better. But like I said to them anyway, just like I said to the Aboriginal Australians, one day you will get your land back. And what goes around comes around. And these people who are invaders will fall. You can guarantee that. And the Aboriginal people will once take control and put things back into perspective on this spirituality, on this culture, and the land rights, you know. So Hawaii, beautiful place anyway. Hope to go back there. Now, another place, Micronesia, which I went to, Guam. This is where I went to, Guam. So Micronesia is another island chain of the Pacific. We have Melanesia and Polynesia, you have Micronesia, the small islands. Now, there's many islands there like Yap, Palau. I went to Guam, and I met different people from different places that were there. Now, with Micronesia now, okay, I'm looking for black folks again. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people who are quite the mixture of the Spanish that were there and the Aboriginal peoples. Now, these people kind of separate themselves. Now, it wasn't them who separated, it was the Europeans who separated them. They call themselves Chamorros now. So I'm like, what's this Chamorro thing? I'm just looking at like, so when I'm seeing like proper full-blooded Micronesians there, they're kept the lowest of the looked at, treated like the lowest of the low. So I was wondering, like, why are they treated like so low? You know, I was getting pictures of them, getting like videos, and they're the ones I was hanging out with the most to take me places. You know, I more felt connected to them. I don't remember the Chamorros were cool. I was chilling with one of the Chamorros, boy called Chris, and he was a cool person. He was a guy who's just taking us about, but he didn't. He's kind of like was wondering why we were hanging with the Micronesians, because they call them the Micronesians, the indigenous people, and they are called Chamorros, the mixed people. So it's almost like you're separating yourself from your original land, and I didn't really understand that at all. I thought that was a bit not really wise for them to do that. So anyway, the main thing was in Micronesia, connecting with the black people there. And then again, American Navy there as well. You know, they all had these serious faces on them, and they try and another takeover. You know, they're like bullies and that, and like you can see a lot of the indigenous Micronesians are quite afraid. So I was wondering why are they quite like nervous, and because when I was staying, we weren't like staying in a hotel. We were staying in apartments. So we were next door to some of the other Micronesians. We'd see each other on the balcony over nighttime, over daytime. And they were there just, you know, working normal. But most of these were from other islands like Yap, Palau. So it's like they've been brought in just to work, you know, maybe cheap labor. But at the same time, they're quite nervous and shy. it was only a while until they connected with us good. But it was almost like that they were terrified of the American Navy, like being seen with us or like being seen, it's like, do what you do, don't worry about this is your place, man, your country, your region, man. These are invaders, so don't worry about them. So that was interesting, Micronesia, and beautiful place. And it was great. I'm more connected. I thought the people were better that came from Yap and Palau that came into the Guam, because Guam is a complete takeover. It's a complete takeover. A lot of Filipinos were there, Japanese people were there, American people was there. So they just think they're better. They basically people there think they're better than people, and the Chimoras, like I say. So I had good discussions with some of these Chimoras, and I was saying, look, I know you think you're better than the original Micronesians, but I said that's just foolish because the Europeans and Americans over here see themselves better than you. So it reminded me of something what was in like South Africa, where you have the coloureds, then you have indigenous Africans, and I've seen this before, so I could see that they're going about things the wrong way. It's not worth it trying to connect to the European or connect to the American or, just connect to your people who are from that land. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't the indigenous Micronesians who invaded. It was the ancestors like the Spanish or the Europeans, also the Americans. So I just didn't see really the point of it. But I see the same, like I say, in South Africa with the coloureds and black peoples. But the main thing is, though, it's a nice place. It's a very nice place. It's quite Americanized, which I was quite surprised. Well, I think, oh, why is it, why is it like this, Americanized? But it is. It's just what it is. And like I say, the main thing was I enjoyed myself and got the most out of it. And it was a place that I don't really know too many people gone into Micronesia. It was a great place, and to have an apartment was better rather than just being in a hotel around all tourists. We were just going shopping like in the supermarkets and actually cooking in the place. So that was a great one. And also we did get to go to a show there, like another festival. They always have these festivals where different people from the Pacific come over, and it was great just meeting like different peoples and then different black people from different places. Also, some small black peoples there as well. I got some good pictures and that. So yeah, it was an interesting place, and maybe I'll go back there now. But did go back there. I don't think I would go to Guam. I think I would probably go to other places like Yap, Palau. They actually seem more better untouched islands, and the migration from Micronesia, they're part of what they say. The Austronesian expansion, they tied them into that, so. And then also there were some people the Melanesians, like, well, when they were going into the Pacific Islands, and that some came from Melanesia, some came from Southeast Asia, China, or, the Austronesian expansion. So yeah, there's big cultural linguistic ties. There's also they all talk about each other like so people in Micronesia, Hawaii, Tonga, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea, all these people know that they have a shared culture. They were one time navigating back and forth, even by the seas, and reaching different destinations. But I thought these places in the Pacific were very interesting places, and it was definitely the destination that I definitely needed to reach. So I was happy to go through the Pacific Islands and also visit in Australia. And hopefully soon I will get to visit other parts of the Pacific Islands. I think I had planned one time, but didn't work out, to go to Papua New Guinea. And there's many different islands in Papua New Guinea, not just Ports Moresby, there's other little islands where the place is intact. Also, like to go to the Solomon Islands as well, most definitely. Vanuatu. I need to go to New Zealand, Tahiti, Samoa. You know, I was actually meant to go to Samoa when I was actually in Tonga, but we didn't actually go there because the flight to Samoa was only like 1 day a week, so it didn't really like fit into what we wanted to do and that. But yeah, the Pacific Islands definitely worth going. You know, and my favorite out of them, like I said, was Fiji. Fiji was the best type of people. Um, just the most easiest place to deal with Fiji, and that's what I found. Tonga, interesting place, like I say, very not really somewhat touristy. Actually, a lot of people thought actually I was on research in Tonga because they didn't realize that why not too many people just come over from the UK or whatever. Usually come for research purposes or some sort of thing like that. But I was on research out there to enjoy myself as well. So yeah, definitely we'll go back to the Pacific soon. Definitely put on my list. There's many other islands I need to visit, so and I would go back to Australia, maybe like different parts, heading to the north, out back more. But yeah, anyway. But it's been great today anyway. I'm happy I've been able to follow up the next episode 3, Australia and the Pacific Islands. And next time we're going to be dealing with the Americas. So basically any part of the Americas, whether it was North America, Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. That's what we call by the Americans. So yeah, it's been great today. And I'd recommend anyone go to the Pacific Islands and check out some of them different islands. Go fishing with them sharks. There's some crazy divers that dive into oceans like from 50 feet into the air head first. There's nothing to these peoples though. But it's been great today anyway. And I'm James Diboe, discovered dedicated to original peoples as always. And yes, special edition, episode 3, dealing with Australia and the Pacific Islands. But we out with this one anyway. And peace, bless, and we'll see y'all again.